Okay, so in your home right now, there's this silent war going on every single day. And the hero of this story, it's your air conditioner. But here's the thing, it's under constant attack, fighting an enemy it was never really built to handle. So today we're gonna pull back the curtain on this hidden battle to figure out what's really going on.
So what do you think it is? What's the biggest threat? A sudden power surge? Forgetting to change the filter? Or maybe just plain old age? Those are all good guesses for sure, but the real enemy, the one doing the most damage, it's something way more basic.
Yep, the answer's kind of shocking, but it's the air. The very air outside your window. For so many of us, especially if you live anywhere near the coast, the air your system is supposed to be cooling is also its greatest enemy. That mix of intense heat, crazy humidity, and salt is just this relentless force trying to take down one of the most important appliances in your house. And listen, that's not me being dramatic. We are talking about a climate that literally kills this kind of equipment. It's an environment that pushes these machines to their absolute limit, day in and day out, until they just can't take it anymore.
The numbers really tell a brutal story here. So nationally, you'd probably expect your AC unit to last, 15, maybe 20 years? But in a really harsh coastal climate, like, say, South Florida, that lifespan gets slashed. We're talking 10 to 15 years max. The source material points out that a system designed to last 15 years in a dry climate might only make it to 8 years here. That's almost half its life just gone.
So, how exactly does the air wage this war on your AC? Well, it's got 4 main weapons in its arsenal, 4 enemies that are constantly at work. Let's break down the attack plan, starting with the sneakiest one of all.
First up, we've got corrosion. The best way to think about this is like a silent creeping rust. The salt that's in the humid air, it settles on your outdoor unit and starts this little chemical reaction that just eats away at the copper and aluminum parts, the stuff that's essential for it to work. And this corrosion kicks off a whole chain reaction of bad news. The salt air creates these tiny microscopic leaks in the refrigerant lines. As that refrigerant escapes, the system just can't cool your house anymore. And what's worse, when the refrigerant is low, the whole system is slowly being starved of oil, which eventually kills the compressor. That's the heart of your entire AC.
All right, let's move on to enemy number 2, water overload. See, in a super humid place, your AC isn't just cooling the air, it's also working overtime as a dehumidifier, pulling staggering amounts of water out of the air. I mean, we're talking gallons and gallons of condensation every single day.
All that water has to go somewhere, right? It's supposed to flow out through a little drain line, but that dark, wet pipe is basically the perfect home for algae and mold. And when that gunk inevitably clogs the pipe, the water backs up, overflows, and suddenly you've got a massive water damage nightmare in your ceilings and walls.
The third enemy attacks the system's nervous system, and we call this one electrical stress. This is a real 1-2 punch. First, you've got the non-stop heat, which makes all the electrical parts work way harder than they should. And then all the storms bring power surges that just batter the delicate circuits inside.
And what this stress really does is it wears down the capacitors. Now, these are small parts that basically give the motors the electrical kick they need to get started. They're often the first thing to go. When a capacitor fails, the motors can't start, and if you don't catch it, the strain can burn out the motor itself, turning a pretty small repair into a huge one.
And finally, we have air starvation. An air conditioner has to breathe, It needs to pull in a steady stream of warm air from your house to cool down. But if that airflow gets blocked, the whole system basically starts to suffocate.
So what causes it to suffocate? Well, usually it's something really simple, like a clogged air filter or a dirty indoor coil. When the system can't pull in enough warm air, the super cold refrigerant inside makes all the moisture on the coil freeze solid. The whole thing turns into a giant, useless block of ice. Cooling just stops, and it can even destroy the compressor.
Okay, so let's say your AC finally gives up. It's a hot day, the house is getting stuffy, and you make the call for help. What's supposed to happen next? Let's demystify what a good repair call actually looks like.
A professional service call should follow a pretty clear 3-step plan. First, they should diagnose the problem fast, using the right tools, not just guessing. Second, they should explain the cost and get your okay before they start the actual repair. And finally, they should test everything thoroughly to make sure it's all working perfectly before they pack up and leave.
Now, during that diagnosis, you might get hit with the toughest question of all: is this thing even worth fixing, or is it time to replace it? This is where a really simple but powerful rule of thumb can come in handy. The number you need to remember is 5,000. And it's not just some random number, it's the core of a simple rule that can seriously save you a lot of money and a big headache.
Here's how it works. It's really simple math. You take the estimated cost of the repair and you multiply it by the age of your system in years. If that number is more than 5,000, that's a really strong sign that you should probably just replace the unit instead of pouring more money into it.
Let's just run through a couple of quick examples. Say you've got a $400 repair on a 10-year-old system. Okay, 400 times 10 is 4,000. That's under the $5,000 threshold, so a repair probably makes sense. But what about a $600 repair on a 12-year-old unit? Well, 600 times 12 is 7,200. See, that's way over 5,000. The rule says it's time to start shopping for a new system.
Of course, the best way to avoid that whole tough decision is to fight back before your system breaks down. You can actually go on the offensive with a simple, proactive plan. This is your big counterattack. Getting a professional tune-up every year isn't just a good idea, it's your system's absolute best defense. This is where a tech cleans the coils, which directly fights air starvation. They'll flush the drain lines to prevent that water overload problem. They check refrigerant levels to catch tiny leaks caused by corrosion. And, so important, they test all the electrical parts to spot the signs of electrical stress before something fails on you. This isn't just maintenance, it's like a tactical strike against all 4 enemies.
And that really brings us to the key takeaway here. An air conditioner isn't a simple appliance. It's a complex machine fighting a daily war against the weather. Understanding the battle is the first step to winning it. Your AC is out there fighting for you every single day. And now you know exactly what it's up against, and you've got a battle plan to help it win.